Hello, my most amazing artists. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to make these really cool dragon eyes. We're going to be using a few different materials to do this, and we're going to be looking at texture and value. So let's go for it.
Now, to start off with our dragon eye, we want to begin right here in the middle. You want to begin by just drawing a line that's going to curve up, and it's going to come down at an angle slightly. Next, you're going to draw a line that's going to go down, and then it's going to curve up like this. Inside of here is where you want to draw the actual eyeball. So to do this, I'm going to draw a line that's going to come down, and then it's just going to curl up like this. And you can always go and add like a little extra line on each side of here as well. Now, for the pupil, there's lots of different ways that you can draw the pupil. You can make it round, you can make it skinny, you can make a little bit of detail on it, however you want to. I'm just going to make mine nice and skinny. So I'm going to go down, and then when I come up just a little bit, and I want to draw kind of like a half circle shape in here, and then bring it right up to here. Then I just want to color this part in really quickly. Now, the trick is to add lots of lines and different shapes around here to create different types of texture. So one of the things that I like to do is I'm just going to start by just making a little line that curls around, and I'm going to bring it right around to here and then connect it. Then I'm going to do the same thing down here. Just draw a line that's just going to go down and then come up to here. I'm going to repeat this a couple times just to give myself a few lines for some texture in here. Now, once you have something like this, then what you want to do is you want to start adding some different like scale patterns around here. Now, you can always go and make some like big lines like this, make them really tall to kind of help you, or what you can do is you can just kind of create your own. So something that I like to do is just to make some different little random shapes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of start these at the end and then keep drawing it. This gives it a little bit more of like a textured look. And you can make these kind of change sizes, make them get big and then small. Lots of different things you can do just to kind of make it unique and make it your own. So watch, you just kind of make these little curved lines, and then I always start at the end, and I always start down a little bit farther. And I'm just going to kind of bring these all the way around just to create a little bit of texture on here. Now, you can always kind of continue adding those different things around here. And I might go and start making some more of these in between. I'm actually going to start making some of these a little bit bigger as I come around here. And I'm also going to do kind of that same thing down here as well. I'm just going to kind of make these a little bit bigger as they come around. I'm doing that same thing, just kind of making a shape and then starting a little bit lower and then bringing it around. And then you can just kind of fill up your whole paper with different shapes like this. You can always go to, if you don't want to keep doing those shapes, you can always add some extra little lines around here. And then you can draw a line that goes around, and then you can always add some extra little shapes and details in here as well. This is another way to add some different little textures and details into your little dragon eye drawing. So these are just some fun kind of different things that you can try to just kind of help yourself come up with some different ideas. Now, you're also going to want to make your textures go off the paper because this is just like a close-up of the dragon eye. So you can just have your details go right off there. And then feel free to try adding in some other shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of fill up this whole dragon eye real quick. Now, once you're done with this, you can always come in here and you can add some extra little lines and shapes around some different areas just to create some more detail. You don't have to do this, but this is just a way to create a little bit more detail, try some different things on here, just to make this look a little bit more realistic and just to add some nice little texture on here. So I'm just going to take this all the way to the end. Now, you can always go and kind of trace right around here or draw some little lines right around the eye, maybe a couple more for some extra detail. I'm also going to add some little lines along the sides here. Now, our next step is, once you're all done with this, is to begin the coloring part of your dragon eye.
Hello again, my most amazing artists. Now that we have finished with drawing out and tracing out our dragon eyes, I'm going to show you how we can add color to this and value to this to make it look more deep. So let's take a look at the supplies we'll be using. So for this project, we are going to be using markers, oil pastels, and a paintbrush with just some water. We're going to talk about all of those steps as we work. So to start with, I'm going to use oil pastels to create my eye for my dragon. Now, you can choose to use as many colors or as few colors as you want, but what's important is that we create a sense of value in this to make our eye look more round in 3D. What we're going to do is we're going to use the colors white and black to make both tints and shades for our work. And that's going to help make our work look a little bit more 3D. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some oil pastels here, and notice that the oil pastels I've chosen are in rainbow order. You could use whatever colors you want, but I'm going to be using yellow, green, and blue. Now, these are in rainbow order for a reason. If I mix two colors that are opposite on the color wheel, I might end up with a color that I don't want on my dragon eye, and I can show you that here. For instance, if I use the color red right next to the color green, these colors aren't going to mix very well. They're going to make a color that you might not want on your picture. So be careful about those things. If you're not using colors in color order like they are in the color wheel or on a rainbow, this can be a little tricky for you. Like I said, you could also decide to use just one color throughout your work, and that would work just fine as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this yellow here, and I'm going to start near the inside, but not right up against this pupil. So I'm going to use this yellow, and I'm going to make some lines that go back and forth like this. This is pretty important that this is the direction that I choose, because if I weren't to do this, the blending that I'm doing in the next step would not work nearly as well. So instead of going this way, even though that feels more natural because of this line here, I'm going to go outward from the center of the eye and add as much of that color as you like. I like to go pretty thick because I know I'm going to be doing some overlapping. So that is the first part. Then I'm going to use the next color in the rainbow, which is green. Remember Roy G. Biv. And I'm going to overlap some of those colors here. Just a little bit. Use that green in this middle section. You could also use something like yellow, orange, red, or you could go green, blue, purple, or you could just do blue and you could make white, add white to make it light, to make a tint, and add black to make a shade. So you could make some light blue and dark blue if you did it like that. Now I'm going to go to the next color. This is blue. And again, I'm layering these. I'm not just putting them right beside each other. I'm doing a little bit of overlapping here. And it will make more sense when I come back with those original colors. So I don't want to put them away just yet. Be careful near the edge. I just went outside the lines. If that happens to you, see if you can straighten it up a little bit. right. Be careful about rubbing your hand over your picture too. These are oil pastels. They can be really messy. If you rub your hand over them, they will smear because they're very greasy. They are made out of oil. So be cautious about rubbing your hand over your paper. If you end up with a lot of clumps, what you can do is you can pick your paper up and shake it off if you need to. So up next, I'm noticing, where these are blending a little bit. I like what I'm seeing there. I might bring a couple lines inward just a little bit. Inward just a little bit. And then I'm going to use this yellow again, I think, because I want to blend over that green. Notice how it's pulling that and moving it around. That's why it's important that we work in this back and forth like we're doing here. Okay, and then maybe I want to go back with a little bit of that green. Make sure I really got a blend between those colors. Got a blue-green in here. Okay, pretty happy with that. I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create my tints and my shades that I was talking about. Be careful about using this white like this. It's kind of dirty right now. What I might do is flip it over on the other side of my paper and use the back side of my paper to clean that oil pastel off to make sure that it is clean before I use it. So here, I'm going to go back with this yellow and I'm going to add a little bit of white right near the edge of my eye. I can actually bring it all the way up to that edge, and if I accidentally get some on the black part of my eye like I just did right there, all I can do when I'm finished is add black over that part. I don't want to do that yet because if I accidentally touch it again, it will mix into that yellow and make a really dirty color, so be careful about that. And again, if I add this all over, in addition to being able to blend it a little bit more, it's also going to brighten it up just a little bit. I'm making some lighter colors in here. These are called tints. Then a little bit of black around the outside edge. Black is not a very comparable color to white. White is very light and bright, whereas black is really intense and dark. And so if I were to try, picked up the wrong one there. If I were to try and add more black than that, it's going to go really dark really fast because it's a very strong hue. But if I use just a little bit, I could always add more if I need it. So what I'm doing here is I'm just adding it a little bit at a time to this blue, and that's creating a darker shade of blue in this area. And again, all of this is going to help make our picture just look a little bit more 3D. All right, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Again, I might fix these areas where I went over. Not too bad. All right, I like it. So up next, what we're going to talk about is using markers. When I use these markers on this picture, I do not need to add them everywhere. I am not coloring everything in. What we're going to do is we're going to go around the outside edge of each one of these, either the lines like this, and notice I'm using the broad side of this marker, not the skinny side when I hold it upright, the broad side to make a thicker line by just tilting my marker over a little bit more. I just went outside the lines there, but I'm okay with that because we're going to blend over this and it's going to make more sense in a second. So I'm going around those outside edges. So what do I mean by that? As I'm working on this, what I'm trying to do is go along the inside of each one of these scales and trace that inside line. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we do want to get it pretty close. I am doing it to all of them. Every single scale in here. And I can use different colors. So I'm going to stop on that one. I'll probably come back to it. I could create patterns. I could be a little bit more random with it. It's really up to you. But I'm not shading this whole thing in, and I'll show you why here in just a second. But again, whatever colors you want to use in here are fine. And again, if you want to make them more random, you can. If you want to be really precise with where you put those colors, you can. If you want to use rainbow colors, you can. If you want to use just one color, go for it, okay? This is your dragon. You got to decide. But how you apply your marker is important to me because it's going to help us with the next step. So make sure that as you're working throughout this entire picture that you are going around the inside of each one of those scales and each one of those lines. So I'll show you again right here. Let's use probably this darker blue right on top here. So on the inside of that line. And it's okay if there's a little overlap. But this is what I'm going to do to the whole picture. And then I'm going to speed it up so that you can see what we do after this step. Okay? Okay, from here, what we're going to do is we're going to use a paintbrush and just some plain water on our paintbrush to blend these. And what this is going to help us do as we paint over this surface is it's going to lift some of that color, not a lot, but just a little bit, and bring it into those white areas. And let me show you, you'll see that start to happen as I brush over some of these areas. It's going to lift a little bit of that color and bring it into the areas that need it. So we'll see this one. You can see as I start to brush over it, it's lifting that color and pulling it into the center so that it's no longer white. And the reason that we're doing this way is because when we have that darker edge, it creates almost like a shadow. Whereas in the middle, it almost acts like a highlight. It's very bright in those areas. So if I just blend over these, I'm gonna get kind of a light color on the inside, a lighter value, which is what I want. Okay. I think I've finished everywhere that I think I'm going to add color. Now right now this all looks a little bit grayed out because there is a lot of water on it, but when it dries you're going to see it really brightens up, and these areas that have been blended will kind of smooth out and they'll look pretty cool. So I hope you've enjoyed making this dragon eye. I can't wait to see what you decide to do with your own, and we'll look at just a couple other examples of some different things that we can do with these.